Speaking of a den of snakes and liars, and I think that transition actually does work in all sorts of ways. Fox News. Remember when Laura Ingraham did that weird arm motion thing at the Republican National Committee in 2016? I don't know, guys. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking this. It's totally spontaneous. So if you don't have it, don't worry about it because we didn't plan on it. Oh, okay. We do have it. Nice.
You mean the Ingraham angle or the Ingram angle?
The Ingram angle.
It's about 30 degrees, maybe 40, a little bit short of 45.
I'm not saying it was an intentional angle, but
I
I'm
am
saying
suggesting it was.
I'm heavily implying it was. I'm saying it certainly has, if people are looking at this, this angle has, shall we say, historical echoes. It was a body posture that was reminiscent of a certain group of people.
It was oh so fleeting.
Oh, so fleeting. Dad would have been so proud. Laura Ingraham is just, yeah. I mean, she's somebody that in any rightly functioning society would be sort of begging some local FM outlet that was going under to let her have a white nationalist hour in between. I don't even know. I can't even think. Any profession I could think of that Laura Ingraham should be doing is an insult to that profession. So I won't even use an example. Here's Laura Ingraham, and it should be, put in context of something I'm sure that we're going to be covering more, but there's a lot of reporting, I believe it was an NBC report, and a lot of reporting indicating that the next wave of the ethnic cleansing war on people of color by the Republican Party in America is going to target quote-unquote legal immigrants. I'll put that in quotation marks just as I won't say illegal either. But immigrants who are here, who have done the paperwork. And the policy proposal is essentially that if you have ever benefited from any government program, anything from Obamacare to food stamps, so of course this would implicate, pretty much all Americans, you could be subject to deportation even if all of your work is here in order and you've been here for quite some time, obviously. That's in the pipeline. And of course, that's the real agenda of these people, some for ideological reasons, some for just engineering an electoral map that favors Republicans. This is Laura Ingraham, this sort of with letting the next phase of white nationalist propaganda out of the bag here, setting the stage for what we'll see probably around October, November from the administration.
Because in some parts of the country, it does seem like the America that we know and love doesn't exist anymore. Massive demographic changes have been foisted upon the American people. And they're changes that none of us ever voted for and most of us don't like. From Virginia to California, we see stark examples of how radically, in some ways, the country has changed. Now, much of this is related to both illegal and, in some cases, legal immigration that, of course, progressives love.
We love that. Actually, I do. I enjoy living in a more interesting, more broad-based society. But that's actually pretty irrelevant to the conversation here. The conversation is about rights and norms, racism versus not racism, and universal delivery and equity for everybody. So, and by the way, this is absolutely an area where there is a zero-sum game fight. There's no question in my mind that some in certain areas of the tensions around these issues could absolutely be influenced and impacted by addressing the structural inequality issues and issues of capitalism we have in this country. I just have no doubt about that. And I know that we need to deal with those issues regardless. And I also know that there is a group of people, of which Laura Ingraham and Donald Trump and every single Republican leader in Congress is a part of, who want a white ethno-state of a strong or soft variety. Maybe some people don't want to sort of legally resegregate the country. Maybe they just want, a sort of generally white place where everybody kind of informally, quote unquote, knows their place. Okay, and you won't have to be shocked by somebody speaking Spanish by you or whatever other nonsense that these idiots get up to. And then there's people who clearly are and in real positions of influence and power who are absolutely closer to a overt legislative white ethno-state end of things. And that, yes, that's a zero-sum game. Those people need to be absolutely destroyed politically. They need to be completely discredited culturally. And they need to, in people in our positions, be mocked, undermined, and destroyed in every cultural way, shape, and form, period. And then in the civic space, that's where people like Kristen Piccolini and others can, work on the emotional, psychological, cultural things and barriers that we're going to need to overcome to deal with these issues on the ground. But as a matter of politics, the inequality will influence it. And then there's just a whole bunch of people that are showing us the ball here who we need to destroy. There isn't even a subtext to untangle in that segment. She said it. And that's the enemy. So let's be on it.
This is the time.
That's it.
And always remember to just don't let these people walk this horse back into the barn in 2-3 years when they're talking about taxes and whistling it again instead of just saying this quiet part loud. You always have to remember these things.
Precisely. And I'm not, obviously that Rick Wilson, never Trump guy, I'm not particularly enamored of him. I'll give him credit for staying on that beat when a lot of other people have either sort of quieted down or admitted that, giving money to rich people is more important to them than all the other things they found uncouth about Trump. He stayed on that beat because apparently, to his credit, Trump's, racism and just being disgusting is sort of generally repulsive to him. But he actually said the other day in an interview, he said, what he, and I'm paraphrasing him obviously, but he's like recognizing that unfortunately that, a lot of Republicans are happy that they don't have to subtext this anymore. They're happy that they can give into their id on this stuff. And, of course, part of me is like, yeah, dude, we know. So why the fuck were you working to get them elected across the country? But that being said, I mean, again, credit where credit is due for being real about what's happening here.
Because most people actually, there's a reason they have to pretend, right? Because they need that chunk of people. And there are enough, but now they're realizing that, okay, we've kind of maybe hit diminishing returns with those people. There's all these other people we've been neglecting with couching these things in softer terms that we can make up for. And I think it's definitely a short-term desperation play because I think most people don't like this stuff.
I don't think they do either. And I think that is I think that, of course, these issues are very complex and there's a massive amount of, bias and racism across the board. But one way in which, yes, I agree with you. I think most people, including people who might be pretty bad on some issues and might possess some very unhelpful attitudes, and there might be work to do or whatever, but in a functional political sense, yeah, I don't think most normal people like this stuff. And I think even when we looked at that Trump focus group, there was the guy who apologized for voting for Trump, and there was also that middle-aged white dude who was just like, why did he call LeBron stupid? And, again, we could say like, hey, buddy, like, what were you listening to the whole campaign? And that's a fair point. But at the same time, great. If it takes the LeBron tweet to get it, and he's going to flip and vote the right way, and he sees things clearly, awesome. Welcome aboard, at least for this specific battle.
And my point is, like, often it's not really the what they call the inciting event, like a LeBron tweet. It's really how that event is received in their social groups. And so that guy probably has friends that are like Cavs fans or something. I don't know. They have season tickets, right? Like it could be something as petty as that.
Totally.
And I think that's why in the long term, it's better to be a good person and not racist and those sort and for the people because I think it does. I think people actually do come. I don't think people are walking away from the left. I think people are walking away maybe to like apathy. That's what the right wants. If
that's what they want.
Right.
I don't think most people respond to a bunch of ghouls and sociopaths, monsters and unhinged idiots ranting and raving about, community leaders and athletes and defending kidnapping children and putting them in cages. Most normal people don't respond to that. And that does speak well of them. And yes, if you're on the left, you must have a broad optimism about people.